So this, I just want to take a moment to introduce the CDC grad programs team that's here. So all of you know Katie and I, and then joining us as well, we have Charlotte Bies van Heemst, and who was at our last seminar and was introduced to you. So, but Olawole Leroux, who is here as well, couldn't attend our last seminar. So, but he's one of our new graduate consultants. So I wanted to quickly introduce you all to Olawole. Olawole, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Good morning and welcome to this session, everyone.
Okay, that's great. So we're happy to see you here today. Our final workshop really has been designed to get you thinking about your short and long-term career goals. It's an opportunity for you to take a little bit of time to visualize your future careers and where you want to go, and to design your own personal roadmaps to follow. This, as I mentioned, is our last seminar, but it certainly doesn't mean it's our last time together. So we really hope that as you progress through your degree program, you'll continue to seek us out, to meet one-on-one with our career advisors, with anything that's related to career development questions or planning. We're here to help assist you. And that includes after you've graduated. So not everyone knows that, but the Career Development Center is here to support alumni as well. So 2 years down the road, if you want someone to have a look at your resume or you want to do a mock interview with one of us, feel free to reach out and do that. Also just want to quickly mention that there's a couple of things coming up that I would really encourage you to participate in. One of them is Asper Career Month. So, and it revolves around the University of Manitoba Career Fair, which is on January 20th. So even though you may not be graduating for the next till July or August of next year, really encourage you to attend the career fair. It is virtual, so you have to register for it, but it's a great opportunity for you to meet with employers that may be looking to hire and to get some information about what they're looking for, what kind of careers they have, etc. There's also a number of events that Katie and the team will be communicating with you that happen in January that could be of relevance to you. So take advantage of those things. The other piece is Judy Jayasuriya, who's our experiential lead at the Asper School, has just sent out an email talking about some case competitions that are coming up. And again, case competitions are a really good way to hone your professional skills, your problem solving, your critical thinking, your presentation skills. Also a great way to build your network because you are connecting with coaches that are brought in from industry, and you're also connecting with the judges. So it's a great way to, again, advance your professional skills. So consider doing that. So I'd like to now just kind of direct your attention to the slide, which is, career management. It's not just about finding work you love. It's about building a life that you love as well. And of course, I think maybe all of us have heard that if you find a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's kind of a common saying that we say. So we're all hopeful that you guys will advance through your Asper degree program and then land in a position that you're really passionate about. So Katie, I'm going to get you to launch the first poll. Everyone can see that. Okay. We'll give it about 10 more seconds and then we'll end that poll and share the results. Charlotte, can I admit Hong?
I already did. It's just taking a while to join. I think he or she might have technical issues.
Yeah, I think that's everybody for the poll.
Yeah. Okay, can everyone see the results there? So 92% of people will be looking for work, actively looking for work upon graduation. So this seminar is quite important. And then will you be looking for work in Canada? 83% said yes. So there's some undecided. So that's fine. Okay. So I just wanted to mention before we move to the agenda that, you know, people change jobs really quickly nowadays, and the time frame that people are in a job is reducing quite rapidly over the last decade. And I think that will continue to happen with the gig economy, with all of the changes, the abrupt technology changes that are happening. There's going to be jobs, you know, that are available in 5 years that we haven't even heard about. So there's going to be a lot of movement in your career through the next 30 or 40 years. And so on average, a person right now will change their jobs 12 to 15 times over their 35, 40-year career. And the average time in a job is 4.2 years, which is quite a bit lower than it used to be. And the thing to think about too when you're managing your career is the things that bring you happiness in your 20s and early 30s will change as you progress through your year. So you have to give some concerted thought to your career and where you want to be in the short term, medium term, and long term. And that's some of the things that we'll talk about today. So today session has been broken into 3 parts. So we'll spend about the first hour and 10 minutes talking about goal setting and job search strategies. Then we'll have a small break. Then we'll spend the next section talking about developing elevator pitches, how to manage information or networking meetings. We'll talk a little bit about networking, which is super important, especially in the Canadian context. Who you know, people who know you is really important and will play a big part, particularly as you progress through your career. We'll talk about that more. Using social media for career management, again, huge in North America. LinkedIn is a very popular recruitment site, but there's also others that are coming up, and Katie will talk a little bit more about that. We'll have a 10-minute break after that part 2 section, and then we will be joined by Donna Adamanchuk, who is an executive coach and a civility expert, and she's going to walk us through some business and social etiquette tips. So here's our course objectives. Goal setting, planning and preparation, job search strategies. We've talked about elevator pitch, information meetings, social media, networking, and emotional intelligence. So what is career management? Career management is the combination of structured planning and the active management of one's own professional career. Lots of us, if you poll people in your circle, whether it's your friends, your family, they'll say that they landed jobs out of circumstance. They just happen to be in the right place at the right time. But most people don't actively plan and manage their careers. I would say that most people in this course are obviously advocates of lifelong learning. And so, and maybe a little bit more sophisticated because they understand the value of lifelong learning. So I'm hoping that you also will value the idea of planning your career. So it's about taking charge and taking time to reflect on your skills and interests. So if you think back to seminar 1, where we did the type focus, or the career leader, if you're an MBA student in the course, it identified some of our motivators, our interests, our strengths, and also, you know, where we can utilize those strengths in terms of career opportunities. So it's about recognizing and building on those strengths while mitigating any weaknesses through a life spent learning. It's definitely not a passive activity. So you have to be active in terms of planning your careers. And it's a lifelong process. It involves creating a plan and setting short and long-term goals for your work and your personal life. And it isn't just about finding the next job. I know for students that are early in their careers, really oftentimes I'll talk to students and they'll say, I just want a job. I get that. That makes sense for sure. But it's really important if you can try to identify a job that fits all of those criteria that I just talked about and meets your short-term goals. If you just find a job that doesn't do that, you're a little bit off the pathway of where you might have anticipated you wanted to go. So don't waste time, is what I would say. If you create a plan and you target jobs that are going to align to that plan, your first job, you know, first career job post graduation is going to fit with your plan because you won't apply for other things. So now I'd like you guys to do a bit of work. I've brought up on the screen some things that some questions for reflection that will help you begin the process of planning. Certainly, creating a career plan is not going to be done in the 4 hours of this seminar, but we're going to get you started thinking about it. So I'd like to break you into a breakout room. You're going to have 2 or 3 people in the room, and I'd like you to take a couple of minutes to just kind of quietly by yourself reflect on this, and then I want you to share with each other. It's in your handouts. So if you have brought up your package of handouts, the questions are there. It's your first handout to help you. And so Charlotte, I'll get you to form the breakout rooms. Charlotte, just a reminder to put it at 4 minutes, and then they'll have a minute to come back.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Just a minute here. All right, everyone should move into a room right now.
Have fun, be creative. We lost Ola Wally.
Oh,
Charlotte, we'll need to juggle around. We've got Olawole in room 4 with only one other student.
yeah, I had another student with him who dropped off, I think, so I'll move.
Okay,
Shugata, Yuhan, and Yanfei have 3. Do we have 30?
I will move.
Tematopi and Treelock have not joined.
Treelock is in here. I see 2 of his account.
Okay, that's good. So he's in here. He's just on 2 different devices.
So I'm just wondering how.
Oh, but
how you would.
John is also by himself in room 6.
I'll move someone from another room to John now so they can get started. Okay.
We should have time for this because I told them to silently reflect on the questions for themselves. So if they're by themselves, they still can do an exercise.
Tematope and Treelock, are you here in the main room?
Yes, this one's me. I
Okay.
don't know what the other one is.
Okay, so do you see something asking you to join a room?
No, it says please wait to be assigned.
Okay,
Okay, hold on. Let me assign you to a room here.
Tematope, how about you? Are you here?
Yes, I am, but the network is just really bad,
Okay,
and that's why my camera is off.
yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for letting us know. Do you see something?
Tematopi.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
Tematopi, I'm gonna have you join one of the rooms as well. Hopefully you don't drop off. But maybe
Okay, no
keep your camera
problem.
off, that will work. So I'll put you in room 4.
Okay.
Did you get an invite, Tematopi?
Yes, I did. I
Okay.
just joined.
Okay. Have a good conversation.
Thank you.
Oh, this is a transition slide.
I do think Olawole.
I was
Oh,
going
no,
to
he
say,
didn't.
well,
I
welcome
am back.
back.
Oh, he's back. Good. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. obviously that was quite short, but I hope you started to think about some of the responses to the question. So goal setting is super important in terms of career management. It plays a significant role in successful career management. Obviously, when you have a goal in mind, you can focus on heading in the right direction. You can check to make sure that you're on target for different milestones in your career plan. Establishing checkpoints and then sort of adapting and pivoting to changes is really important as you move through your life. External and personal factors will change. I mean, I've already talked about the rapid technology advancement and the fact that there's jobs now that will be down the road that we haven't even heard of. So you're going to change. You're going to have to adapt and pivot your goals. But having short and long-term, midterm and long-term goals will allow you to do that in a more informed and knowledgeable way. You have to be flexible and you have to be able to adapt. So one of the things that we talk about when we're talking about goal setting is using SMART, which is an acronym. And so it can stand for a number of things, but it's, specific. Be specific about your goals. Make sure your goals are measurable. Have you reached them? Make sure they're achievable. Sometimes I see people who set really, really lofty goals without any checkpoint or milestone goals. And so it's kind of a pipe dream until you can start to build the ladder of how you're going to get to that really significant goal. It's again, just a dream, and you won't have any way to track or manage how you're progressing towards it. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. Give yourself time, but keep in mind always to be flexible and adaptable, because things will come across your pathway that you hadn't even thought about. And they may be the perfect fit for you and they may align, but it may take your career in a different direction than you had initially thought. Careers aren't linear. Definitely. And if you ask anyone in your circle who's had 30 plus years of work experience, they'll tell you that they're probably not doing now what they thought they were going to be doing 15 years ago. So be flexible, be adaptable, put yourself out there and be open to opportunities. So create the career plan, but be flexible enough to be able to adjust it when and if a new opportunity comes your way. Or alternately, there are going to be challenges, right? You may have crafted a perfect career plan, but something unexpected gets in the way. So by being a lifelong learner, by being someone who's assessed your strengths, understands your competencies, you're able to pivot to those kinds of unexpected realities of the marketplace. So one thing I would say, just in sort of wrapping up that, is make sure that your long-term goals align with your personal values and your interests and your competencies. Motivators change, as I've said, as your life changes. But as long as you're aligning your long-term goal with personal values and your interests, you should be successful in reaching that goal. So I'd like to quickly share an example. It's our handout number 4, I believe. It could be 3. It's handout number 3, but it's a career goal setting example. So in it, I've used an example of a student who's in the Masters of Finance program. So a short-term goal that is a SMART goal, so again, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound, might be, apply for the mentor program and obtain a mentor with a finance background while you're doing your MFin. Participate in a case competition. So I've been specific here and I've said a CFA ethics challenge. Attend a CFA networking event with finance professionals. So those events are coming up. CFA does a forecast dinner. There's all sorts of other things that happen So those are some short-term goals that you can set that will allow you to gather more information about CFA Society, to meet with industry finance professionals to build your network. And if you are successful in getting a mentor, definitely you're going to gain a lot of professional insight and expertise through the meetings that you hold with that mentor. A midterm goal might be to, and is, graduate with your MFin degree, for sure. You know, that's down the road, short term, 6-8 months. You may choose to write 1 or 2 CFA exams. Give yourself a timeline for that. If you are just, you know, I may write the CFA level 2 at some point in the future, things will get in the way. But if you create a target and a goal, you're much more likely to take the steps necessary to achieve that goal. Arrange information meetings, which we're going to talk about later in this session, with industry professionals. Connect with more industry professionals on LinkedIn, and we'll talk about how to do that. And then perhaps a short-term goal 1 year in advance is to get hired by a company in an analyst role. That could be one of your goals. Finally, 2 years down the road, maybe 3 years down the road, it could be join the CFA Society Winnipeg as a charter member, write your CFA level 3 exam, obtain your CFA designation, get hired by a national company as a portfolio manager. And that could lead to your long-term goal, which would be to be a vice president in wealth management in a large national company. That could be a long-term goal. So you can see how creating these stepstones, the rungs on the ladder, sometimes I use that analogy, can allow you to really focus on the next step in your career. If you don't do that and you just leave your career to happenstance, you don't really know if you're traveling in the direction for the destination that you want in the end. So I'd like, again, now for you guys to do some work. I'd like you to work independently. I'd like you to take 5 minutes to think about some short-term goals using the template that we've provided in the handouts, and a long-term goal. And you can do, if you have time, you can do the middle goals. Obviously, to truly leverage this exercise, you're not going to be able to do this in 5 minutes, but I want you to start thinking about it and thinking about using this tool. So definitely, if you choose option A of our assignment, which is to create a career plan, this particular exercise will be really important to developing that career plan and answering the questions that we're going to provide to you. So we're going to give you 5 minutes now, quiet time. So I'd like a short-term goal, things you can do now, and what a long-term goal might be for you. Charlotte, I'm going to get you to be our timekeeper.
Yes.
I'm going to ask everyone to share one short-term goal and or one long-term goal in the chat at the end of this 5 minutes.
Something from Pam. And it says short-term goal, pass CFA exams, long-term goals, get a promotion.
We got 1 more minute left, so everybody wrap up your thoughts.
Mhm. Stephen Mata says, long-term goal, become a partner at a reputable firm. Do you have a short-term in mind, Stephen? And then there's quite a few more. I'll just run through them really very quickly here. Short-term goal, pass the securities qualification certificate test. Long-term goal, pass CFA level 1, 2, 3. And then there is create thorough understanding of the subjects I am or will study my MPhil. And then long-term is learn skills and have enough courage to be able to run a startup in the field I find lucrative at this time. Again, that's not as specific as Kelly had mentioned. Short-term goal, making connections with the industry experts and developing skills required to be an effective analyst. Long-term goal, become a portfolio manager at a large fund, excuse me. And then the last one, short-term goal, plan on becoming an accountant. So I've started to prep for CPA, long-term to be a partner at a consulting firm. And that was awesome.
Okay, those are great. Just keep in mind when you're creating your goals to be as specific as possible. So one assumes that you're going to get a promotion at some point in your career. But how are you going to get there? And what is the position that you next want? And that title may change, but if you can give yourself the benefit of having a specific goal, you can really sort of test whether or not you're going to be reaching that goal or make an adjustment. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is that this question can really, this question will come up in an interview. So a very common interview question is, where do you see yourself in 2 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And if you've done this career planning process, you're not going to be stymied by that. And you're going to be able to give a really thoughtful, clear response to that question, which will make you seem prepared, professional, career oriented and confident in terms of building your career. So if you are not sure about this, think about it in terms of that as well. It will help you prepare for an interview. And with that, thank you very much, guys. And I'm going to turn you over to Katie.
All right, this is another animated slide, so I will try to advance it a lot. So we're thinking about SMART-term goals, or SMART goals, short-term goals, long-term goals. There's some really great stuff happening in the chat. Now, how do you take that and turn it into a job search? As we saw based on that first poll, there are a lot of you who are planning on looking for a job for when you graduate. So some of the things that you need to keep in mind are, let me just advance this, there we go. We've talked a little bit about considering your resume and your cover letter and your LinkedIn profile as marketing documents. And this is really because this is how you show who you are to people who don't know you. That's really what marketing is at its heart on one level. And so you need to remember to put your best self forward in all of these. One question that we always get is, when should I start looking? And the answer on one level is now. You should start looking now. But remember that there's a difference between looking and applying. So what you should be doing is looking at the jobs that are available now. You should be thinking about what those requirements are. If you know very clearly that you want to be a financial analyst, and you're going to be applying for financial analyst jobs when you graduate, start looking at what jobs are available with those titles and similar titles. We'll get into that in a bit. What are their requirements? What gaps do you have? Because you still, while you're studying and you're really busy, you still do have time now to start addressing some of those gaps, particularly when it comes to things like experience. If you don't have a lot of work experience, case competitions are a great way to go about it. There are other opportunities that are available as well. When it comes to thinking about applying, companies generally don't post jobs until they need them to be filled. And so you're going to be looking at the desired start date for jobs and applying for jobs that you can realistically work at that start date. So you can't start working full-time while you're still a full-time student, right? So don't apply for those jobs. There are a very few exceptions to these. And I can see Kelly, as soon as I said that, I saw Kelly's chin come up of, no, that's not quite right. So if you have a lot of experience, if you have the flexibility to maybe have a bit of a part-time job sometimes, and Kelly, I feel free to unmute yourself, sometimes you can apply for a full-time job. And then if you're really the best fit for that job, you might be able to negotiate a part-time start date and then a full-time start date once you're done your studies. But again, that's more for the people who have more experience and a little bit more breadth to what they bring to a role. For most of you, you're probably going to start looking about 3 months before you graduate, looking to apply. So you're looking now to figure out what the job market looks like. You're looking to apply 2 or 3 months before you graduate. So that gives you a lot of time to conduct research on companies. Lots of international students know about the big names and they don't necessarily know about the smaller names. So conduct company research. Handout 4, we're not going to get into it now, but in your package, handout 4 is all about how to conduct company research. So take time thinking through those steps. And just really want to flag while we're on this, that if you are interested in investment banking, be aware that this is a highly, highly competitive field. If you have no work experience, chances of you getting hired in investment banking are really low. But that's why you need to be looking at those job postings now and thinking about what gaps you can fill to get up to there. So what do you need? What can you do now for that long-term goal? Build a SMART goal for your short-term steps to get you all the way up to that long-term step of getting into investment banking. And a number of firms that do investment banking or investment analysis, sometimes they're hiring a year in advance. So really think about that strategically. Also, another way that you can leverage not having a lot of experience, same as other ways, case competitions, extracurriculars, showing your involvement, showing that you care, more than just your studies. So a lot of people are going to start their career making a list of job titles and then searching those job titles, but job titles can vary by country. Job titles can vary by company. There are job titles now that didn't exist 20 years ago that are still doing the same thing that somebody would have done 20 years ago. It's just got a new title. And somebody at one company might be doing one thing and doing another thing. Two people might be doing the same thing. This person's a coordinator. This person's a manager. What their title is slightly different. So you need to remember to think broadly about the job titles that you're looking for. The best way to kind of take a look at this is to look at job duties, particularly if you're somebody who knows that you're interested in finance, but you haven't targeted down what part of finance you're really interested in. So reading job duties can really give you a sense of what interests you. And what I want you to do when you read those job duties is picture yourself doing those tasks 7 to 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. And think about that. Does that get you excited, or does it make you think, oh, that's so not me? And then follow those feelings and then start looking at the job titles, looking for patterns, and look at companies as well. So think broadly and then start getting a little bit more specific. So on to researching the industry a little bit more. You need to think about what are the career prospects within a given industry. Will you only ever be able to get here? Are there only 3 jobs nationally at this job that you really, really want? But if you move industries, are there many more of these jobs than there were of the other type? So you need to think about what industries are going to be best for you to position yourself in. It's not enough to simply want to work in a particular industry. There needs to be an open job opportunity for you to do that. So that's part of your job search. What's the industry's overall economic health? Think about that. Determine the state of the industry. Is it currently in a state of growth? That's going to mean more jobs. If it's in stability, you might have to wait for people to move on to other jobs or retire. Or if it's a state of decline, there's going to be fewer jobs, right? There's some logic to a lot of this. Think about the main trends. What are the challenges and opportunities for this industry? And COVID has really blown a lot of that wide open. So think about the challenges that a company might face. How can you use your, not just your financial skills, but the passions that you also have to really address something that maybe doesn't exist right now, or maybe is just starting to become a reality. So you want to think about that. The job that you want maybe doesn't exist for a couple of years yet. So again, by using SMART goals, long-term and short-term goals, you can think about how you can start positioning yourself to be ready for those things. And also think about what occupations are in high demand in a given industry. Things change constantly. And while conducting your research, make sure that you're paying attention to not only what careers are in high demand today, but what areas might also be in demand in the future. I hope that many of you are aware of the Job Bank, which is a Government of Canada website. They do trend forecasting for careers and for industries, and they do salary reports based on region, based on a lot of different things. The Job Bank can really help you look at this whole picture. All you need to do is Google Job Bank Canada, and it'll show up for you. Just going to quickly hydrate, and then I'll get on to this next slide. So, like I said earlier, don't simply list the 5 largest companies within a specific industry. They're going to come readily to mind to you and to many, many others, which means that they're likely highly competitive to get into. Not everyone can work for a large multinational, but also not everybody wants to. So getting local experience, if that's still your dream, if you still want to work for, one of the top firms in your industry, think about how getting local experience might leverage that for you, especially if maybe their head office isn't here. But if you can network your way in through getting related jobs, it can really help you kind of think about that. So that's got to be part of what you're thinking about as well. In Manitoba, 90% of employees work for small or medium businesses. So realistically, you're going to be getting experience somewhere small, which also means that the people that you work with probably know people who work in something in similar jobs elsewhere. The community here is small, and networking is an important part of that. It's your reputation with your coworkers and those who know you. One really good example of thinking about the top, big 5 banks, don't forget about the credit unions. The credit union system is very strong in Canada. And in Manitoba here, we've got 2 pretty large credit unions that have business centers, and others might have them as well. They're just, I can't remember who, 2 more credit unions merged. Credit unions have started merging over the last few years to create the ability to do more for the members that they have. Credit unions are also places that are really strong on values. So if values are important to you, I encourage you to take a look at those. And don't forget that this research into employers is going to help your application stand out. Generic cover letters and resumes that don't address the skills and the experience and the values that companies are looking for are going to mean that your application gets ignored. So make sure that you show in your cover letter and your resume, more in your cover letter, that you understand that company and you understand the fit that you have for it. How do you fit within their strategic plan? How about their values, their company culture, if you know about that? It can all give you a much stronger chance of getting that interview. By now, you've probably heard of the visible and invisible job market. So we'll talk a little bit about the visible job market first. This is where the jobs are advertised. It's easy for you to find. So here you can see a list of places where jobs are posted. Social media, as you know, I'm sure, is becoming more and more of a player in this, and not just LinkedIn. LinkedIn is still one of the main places for people to source jobs and for people to post jobs. But TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram are all becoming players in this as well. Companies are using them in new and really interesting ways to highlight company culture, for you to be able to post a 15-minute video or 15-second video that's a really quick bio about you and your skills, and use that to get a company's attention. I know up here it says 40% of less than 40% of jobs are advertised. You can Google it and you'll see numbers anywhere from 30% of jobs aren't advertised to, I think I saw 85% of jobs aren't advertised the other day. It's really, really broad. But we'll get into that a little bit more. But remember to think about where jobs are being posted. There's more information in one of the handouts as well. Using the internet to access recruiters and executive search firms in the areas you want to target is a really great way to leverage social media as well. Companies can get the word out really cost effectively, as well as really talk about their brand as well at the same time. Hidden job market, we've talked about number of jobs that aren't posted. Again, we don't have the exact number because they're not posted, so it's hard to get those stats. Before we get too deep in this slide, I'm going to remember to share this poll. So if everyone can just take a moment to answer this.
Charlotte, I see someone in the waiting room.
Yes, I have sent them a message, so I
Okay,
didn't
thanks.
remove them so that they have some time to read the message. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, I think this is everybody who's here, so I'm going to end the poll. And this is surprising and impressive that 64% of you have found your job by referrals or networking. So that tells me that you already know how important it is to know people and have people know you and what you're capable of. And really that allows you, oh, I forgot to share the results there. That really allows you to tap into this hidden job market. Hidden job market, there's less competition, but there's more work. It means that you've spent time letting people know who you are, what your skills are, what you're capable of. You've dedicated time to creating a LinkedIn profile that really shows who you are. Hidden job market's really going to come into play the farther into your career you get. More senior positions are more likely to be not posted. So people are going to reach out to you based on knowing who you are. But this is also something that you can start now by figuring out who recruiters are in your area. Make sure that you're following them, that you're engaging with their content, and hopefully having a coffee chat with them so they can figure out who you are as well. So quickly in the chat, if you folks can put in here, how do you tap into that hidden job market?
How are you, or how can you?
Anybody? 67% of you said that you found a job through referrals or networking. How did that work for you? Okay. Hopefully some start showing up in the chat soon. Remember that we do expect participation. It does also help us and helps your classmates as well. So the easiest way to tap into the hidden job market is to say yes to invitations. So this is also saying yes to signing up to newsletters. So I hope that most of you or all of you are signed up for CFA Society Winnipeg's newsletters. Say yes to attending social gatherings as well, especially once you're in Winnipeg and once it's, it's something that you're comfortable with. You never know where you're going to meet somebody. I used to have a job recruiting professional volunteers. I recruited somebody who was selling me clothes so that I could go attend a conference. because we got chatting and she had the right skills that weren't on display while she was selling me clothes. So you literally never know. Be open to conversations with folks about what you're passionate about. You want to also think about cultivating your contacts. Make sure that you are establishing strong connections with people on LinkedIn, or maybe strong is not always the right word, meaningful connections. Don't just send a connection request. Make sure that you tell the person why you want to connect with them. Engage in their content more than just like. It's easy to just start by hitting like, but think about adding a comment, showing that you value what they've said and that you're thinking about the same sorts of things. Make sure that you practice your elevator pitch. We're going to get to that. Update your social media accounts. Make sure that you've put in there that you're a student at Asper, doing your Master's of Finance or the MBA. Think about how you're presenting yourself on those. And again, take part in case competitions. We're really hounding on that, but it's really important. You meet people who are already in the industry. Some folks just took part in a case competition and had to create a pitch for a company. And the company was so impressed with how well our students did that they have now asked our students to pitch their idea to the company itself. Really great opportunity there and really great visibility for those students as well. Kelly, do you have anything else to kind of add in on this? Nope. Okay. So where do you find them? I was hoping that some of you would have put something in the chat by now, but you know, again, networking. I told you you'd be sick of hearing me talk about networking at the orientation, but it's still true.
Forewarned.
Sorry? Warned.
Forewarned.
Yeah, forewarned. LinkedIn is a really important place to be on. We're going to see some stats later about how much recruiters rely on LinkedIn. Many places are looking for staff through LinkedIn, reaching out for contacts, looking at your profile to see if you match what they're looking for.
Just if I can just add to that too. Sorry, Katie. I'm hoping that every single person here who has a LinkedIn account, and we're going to talk about how important it is to have a LinkedIn account. If you have one, you should be connected to all four of us because we also share job postings. So we'll see a job posting that's relevant to our master's students and we share it on our own LinkedIn. And so if you're connected to us, you can see those job postings. Those are our postings that may or may not be up on the Asper Career Portal. Mm-hmm. But they're really excellent postings. And we'll usually, you know, hashtag Asper MBA, hashtag Asper MFin, hashtag Asper alumni. So make sure that you're connected to us in order to widen your awareness of career opportunities. And this is true as well after you graduate.
Yeah. Yeah, we're posting jobs of many different levels. So it's a good, and this morning, I like to post, I didn't share it, but I like to post about financial position related to investments to help combat climate change. I didn't share it, but I liked it. So if you follow me, it might show up in your feed. So really engaging it in that way. You also want to think about watching the news, keeping an eye out for mergers, business growth, challenges that a business industry is facing. Maybe you have a solution based on your experience and your understanding of things. And maybe through your networking, you already know somebody and can connect with them to say, hey, I might have a solution here. Associations, professional associations are really important. Again, just like the importance of networking, it cannot be overstated. They are also an opportunity for you for networking for those of you who are maybe a little more shy or less inclined to networking. If you're all part of an association that gives you a common talking point. Why did you become a member of this association? What's the favorite event that you've attended? Things like that. But also newsletters. You get news through newsletters, what's happening in the industry, invite events, etc. And associations often rely on their network to recommend people for postings before the posting has even gone up. Sometimes jobs get created if someone with a specific skill set comes along at the right time. And if you attended the CFA Society Winnipeg event earlier this week, you'll have heard that timing can be important too. One of the people attending shared that they had arranged a series of 15-minute meetings with hiring managers in Toronto. And months later, one of them reached out to him because the right job had come along. And so it took a long time, but it came out of a 15-minute meeting. And the job, I don't think was ever even posted, was just given right to him. So be out there and be available to people as well. If you're searching outside of Winnipeg, that's an example. That person, I think, was in Winnipeg when they made those appointments in Toronto. They kind of arranged to have all of them within a week and flew out. You want to think about search firms that specialize in your field. So lots of search firms have national presence. So you can maybe, even if you are connected to somebody locally, ask if they know somebody in a city that you're interested in getting work in. Or just search for local, Google it, search for search firms in the city that you're interested in. Don't forget about alumni chapters that exist in other cities, because ASPR does have alumni chapters in other cities. You want to research the local market for where you're wanting to be. Start with the main companies, but then also remember to look for those smaller players to see if maybe you can get in there. Use information meetings or have information meetings. Set those up via LinkedIn. Everybody is used to doing things by video now, so it's much easier to get a 15-minute conversation than I think it was previously. Maybe you're part of an association that's got a regional affiliation. See if you can join one from the area you want to move into. And again, use your online profiles as much as possible to connect with folks in your targeted industry, in your targeted area that you want to work.
Can I just add something, Katie?
Mm-hmm.
Now is a really good time for you to be planting seeds, right? Don't wait until next August to start planting these kinds of seeds, to have information meetings, to begin to network and build your professional contacts. I'm going to talk later about the fact that as a student, people are much more inclined to help you because they remember being a student themselves. They remember being in your footsteps, trying to launch a career. So they're much more open to sitting down with you, either in person or virtually, to give you some ideas, some tips, some inside information about what's coming down the pipeline in terms of competencies or knowledge you should be getting. So the analogy, it's planting seeds. And we know when we plant seeds, it takes time for that plant to grow into fruition. So think about that as an analogy you use right now to begin to position yourself for career success in the short term.
One of the reasons why we talk about this so much is I was speaking with the VP of RBC a few months ago, and lots of students reach out to this particular person for assistance and networking. And he was really frustrated that so many students weren't approaching him till they were either graduated or about to graduate. And his question to me was, why is no one telling people to network sooner? And I said, we do. So we're not just saying it because we love to hear this. We genuinely mean that this is a really important part of your job search, yeah. And even part of your job as a student. So let's talk about what recruiters care about. This is from a survey from last year. And one thing to notice here is that there's a drop in emphasis on previous job experience, though it's still in the lead. But what's happening is there's a significant move to competency-based hiring. Companies are looking outside of the usual ways to find employees to help diversify their workplace as well. So for example, RBC used to hire almost exclusively from business schools that were finance focused. Now they're hiring people with backgrounds in agriculture and philosophy. In fact, one of their senior VPs doesn't have a finance background at all, but has a PhD in philosophy. So companies are really trying to cast their attention wide to think about who might be able to bring in a different viewpoint, different skill set, but still have the right skills needed to do the job. This is why we talk about transferable skills. Transferable skills and competencies are kind of two sides of the same coin. So when you think about what your transferable skills are that you've gained through your studies, through internships, through co-op, through case competitions, those transferable skills are also some of your competencies. Employee referrals is still tracking here. It says here 37%. it can be a good avenue. Lots of companies have them, but again, because we tend to be friends with people like ourselves, companies aren't using them as much as possible because they are trying to diversify their workforces a little bit more. The one thing about competency-based hiring is that cover letters really allow you to show how your previous experience, your interests, and the skills that you have can align with what the company is looking for. Even if you don't have the industry experience or the role experience. This means that you really need to think about what you do as more than job duties. Job duties on a resume and a cover letter is just boring and doesn't actually say what you can do. So that's why we talk about using accomplishment statements as well. That's another part in this whole competency-based transferable skills field. So make sure I'm not missing anything here. Keep up to date with what you can do. Make sure that you're updating your resume as you take classes that might be relevant for jobs that you're applying for. Update your LinkedIn profile as well. And if you don't have a lot of job experience, you really need to work on leveraging the financial knowledge and the technical skills that you've learned through your studies and address that in your cover letter. These are your competencies. So I know I haven't really talked a lot about what's on this slide, but you will be getting these slides. So please do take a look at it later because this is talking a lot about what recruiters themselves are looking for. So looking for a job is hard. I think we all know that. It can be demoralizing. It can really make you question yourself. So what are some of the reasons why people get stuck when they're looking for a job? Just gonna get all of these up at once. All of these things are true. So self-reflection is part of your promotion and also will help you be better at answering interview questions. Companies want to hire people who are able to reflect on what their past performance, to share a story about something that you did that failed. Self-reflection is showing how you learned from that. Self-reflection can also help you figure out what you really want to do and how to promote yourself a little bit better to get those jobs that you want. If you interview with an attitude of what they can do for you instead of what I can do for them, that's going to also set things off on the wrong tone. Sorry, I see Kelly's mouth moving, but I don't think she's talking to me right now. So another thing is only job searching online. Kelly's got this great line where you can't just job search in your basement or in your apartment with PJs on and slippers on and expect to get a job. These days, if you're also wearing professional attire up top and have your hair done nicely, you can be doing virtual interviews, information meetings, etc. But you need to do more than just looking at job postings. You need to be putting yourself out there as well. And again, as we've talked about, maybe you're not considering a wide enough range. Maybe you've narrowed things down too much too soon. And you need to start thinking, have you gotten too focused in on a particular job title? And are there other similar titles that are where the jobs are doing the same basic thing? So think about that. Also be open to term and contract work. Sometimes companies use these to test for competence and fit within the organization. And about 40% of contract work leads to full-time work. And particularly in uncertain markets, it can be used as employers as a screening tool or a test to really see how it is that you fit within that company. Kelly, do you have any thoughts on this? No? Okay, then our next thing is a break. So we're just going to take a quick 15-minute break or 5-minute break. 5-minute break. Please be back at
9:15. So we actually get 8-minute break.
Ooh, okay, be back at 9:15, please. Again, don't leave the room, the Zoom room. Please feel free to leave your physical room, but just make sure you turn off your camera, keep yourself on mute, and be back on time. So we'll see you at 9:15 Winnipeg time.
Cameras on if you can, please, so we know you're here. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about goal setting and career planning, and now we're going to move into some juicier, meatier topics that you guys will get a chance to practice and role play. So the first thing we want to talk about is an elevator pitch, and what is it? So essentially, an elevator pitch is a popular networking tool. It can be used anytime anybody asks you a question. Tell me about yourself, tell me what you do, etc. It's basically a carefully planned 30 to 60-second pitch that summarizes who you are, what you do, what you can offer, and why you would be a perfect candidate. So basically, you're condensing your resume into 30 to 60 seconds. And by doing this, you're forcing yourself to really narrow down your skills and to find the important points that you wish to convey. So basically, an elevator pitch defines you as a person with particular competencies and expertise, rather than just profiling you as a person with a title. So what I mean by that is when you meet somebody at a networking event and they ask you, what do? You don't simply say, I'm a student at the Asper School of Business, right? This gives you a 30 to 60 second again, pitch that will share with them more than just the fact that you're a student. So we know that meeting with employers can be intimidating. Whether you're scheduled for an interview, trying to get their attention at the U of M career fair. So an elevator pitch can better prepare you for what you can say when you're speaking with a potential employer, a business contact for an information meeting, or your mentor. For those of you who are engaged in the mentor program coming up, it's a great way to start that first meeting with your mentor. They're going to have access to your resume, but if you can give them a well-prepared pitch, it really consolidates for them in a short period of time what you think is important about you and what they need to know. So they get straight to the point in a clear and concise manner, which is a great tool for job seekers. And again, it can be used so many times. It can be used whether you're seeking a co-op placement, and we're going to talk about the co-op program at the end, or an internship or a part-time job, or if you're coming up to graduation, again, you're going to use this elevator pitch to meet prospective employers. It shows a strong sense of preparation and will make you stand out from other people that they're meeting. So that's what it is. How do you prepare one? So this is kind of your outline, and we've sent this to you in a handout. You have a template that you can use, and I'm going to get you to use in just a couple of minutes. But basically, this is what it is. Who are you? What have you done? What do you have to offer? And what are you looking for? So where did you go to school? I'm at the Asper School of Business studying a Master of Finance. What is your experience? So you want to identify key competencies, work that you've done, key accomplishments. What have you been recognized for? So it could be, academic excellence. It could be those case competitions. It could be being on the executive of AMFAS. It could be work experience that you want to share with them. So the goal is really to build rapport quickly. And if it's done well, an elevator pitch will interest your audience in learning more about you. So the other thing that I would always say is end with a question. So at the end of your 1-minute pitch, you want to end with a question that contains a call to action. So something like, what would be the best way to get in touch with you? Would you mind if I followed up with you on LinkedIn? Would you be available to sit down and have a coffee with me and potentially discuss your career path? So end with a question. So I've sent you guys a template, but I'm just going to read the example for you so you get an idea. So my name is Kelly Mahoney, and I'm a recent graduate of the Asper, of the Master of Finance program at the Asper School of Business. During my studies, I successfully passed the CFA Level 1, and I'm scheduled to write CFA Level 2 in December of this year. I also have a Bachelor of Commerce degree. I'm currently looking for a role in a financial institution as a business or financial analyst. I have 2 years of experience working in a customer service capacity at RBC and have practical experience with loans and mortgages. When I'm not studying to write my CFA exam, I'm honing my teamwork and communication skills as a competitive doubles badminton player. I'd love to have an opportunity to sit down with you and get your insights on working in the finance industry. Would you be open to having a coffee with me to share a bit more about your work experience? So that's less than 60 seconds. And really it's given the listener a lot of information about me. Not true information because I don't have a Master of Finance, but it will be true for you. Okay, so before I set you off to craft some elevator pitches of your own, I'd like to share a few tips with you. So remember to speak slowly. One of the things that most people do when they're nervous or they're being introduced to somebody for the first time is they speak too quickly and people can't catch up and can't keep up with what you're saying. So remember to speak slowly and use the power of the pause. Most people don't understand the power of the pause, and pausing is really important because it gets people's attention. Definitely in your elevator pitch, don't use overly complicated terminology or slang. People have to understand what you're saying. Be sure that you focus on the points that you want to get across. So you're going to have to think about your job target, write it out, and get it down to a few key bullet points. You want to read it out loud, you want to practice it, but you don't want to sound rehearsed. And you want to be able to prepare a few variations, because what you will say to someone who is a prospective employer may be different than what you say to somebody who you're meeting for the first time at a business networking event. So you want to have a bit of a variation. You want to be unique, interesting, and authentic, right? And the most important thing is, again, around that variations piece, understand who you're speaking to and what your target is. What are you trying to convey to them? Because not every person you meet are you going to say, so now I'm looking for a finance analyst job. It just might not be appropriate. So knowing your audience, and I've written this WIFM, which is a term that means what's in it for them. Why should they be interested in learning more about you? Okay, so think about that in terms of when you're preparing your delivering your elevator pitch. And then definitely, if you're meeting people, or have a business card handy. And students, you can develop a business card for yourself with your name, your contact information, you know, the fact that you're in a Master's of Finance or an MBA program, and maybe some key competencies on the back of the business card. So you can share your business card and reciprocate, ask them for a business card as well. Okay, so we're going to watch a short video, very short video, with an example of an elevator pitch. And then I would like to have you, using the template that we've given you, I'd like you to take 5 minutes to work silently by yourself to start to craft out your elevator pitch. Using the example that I've given to you, and also what you're going to see in this video. And then we're going to move you into a breakout room with 1 or 2 other people for 5 minutes, and you're going to share and practice with each other. Help each other to improve. Help each other to make it a little more interesting if you can. So I'll get Katie to load up the video. Takes less than a minute, and then we'll start our exercise.
Action! I'm Matt Saunders from Surrey, and I've been living in Dubai for a couple of years now. I have extensive experience in marketing and brand management, having worked with some of the world's best hotel brands in London and Dubai. During the past 5 years, I've led award-winning customer retention campaigns that have resulted in tripling occupancy for the hotels I worked for. I'm now ready for an executive position within a boutique hotel brand, where I can lead my own team of marketeers.
Okay, you could see in that video that it was really short. It was less than 45 seconds. And this person shared their expertise.
Kelly, we didn't see the video yet.
Oh,
No
I'm
video?
sorry. I did.
Not yet.
Could you hear the video?
No.
I did.
I could see the link. I could see the link on the slide, but it didn't project out yet.
Okay, give me a sec to queue it up again.
Mhm.
Well, we are viewing Kelly's screen, so I guess that's why.
Yeah, I haven't started sharing yet. I'm trying to, we start this video at a very particular point, so I just want to get that loaded up first. Bear with me, I need to watch a commercial before we can watch the video together.
Mhm.
Can somebody unmute and confirm that they can see a video screen?
I can see the video screen.
Others?
I'll let you know if the sound comes.
Well, you
I
could see it
cannot.
last time, but others couldn't. Charlotte, can you?
No, I don't see it.
I think most of us have the PowerPoint slide that says elevator pitch execution.
Katie, do you
sharing
maybe
your
need to
screen.
change the screen that you're sharing? Like because when we started sharing, we probably selected the PowerPoint, but now you want to share your browser, right?
Kelly, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
It says waiting for Katie to control your screen.
Okay, let's try this again.
I stopped it.
How about now?
We do
Yes.
now. We have it now.
Okay. And then once I hit play, can somebody please give me a thumbs up that you can hear it as well?
I will.
Mhm.
I'm Matt Saunders from Surrey, and I've been living in Dubai for a couple of years now. I have extensive experience in marketing and brand management, having worked with some of the world's best hotel brands in London and Dubai. During the past 5 years, I've led award-winning customer retention campaigns that have resulted in tripling occupancy for the hotels I worked for. I'm now ready for an executive position within a boutique hotel brand, where I can lead my own team of marketeers.
All right, Kelly, do you want to share again? So while this is happening, we're going to get you to start working on your own pitch. Take a look at page 7 of your handout. There's a template there for you to use to start working on it. So we know you're not going to be able to develop it entirely right now, so please give it as good a start as you can. And then as Kelly said, we're going to put you into some breakout rooms so that you can share them with each other and help each other adapt them.
4 minutes to work on your own, then 4 minutes to be in a room sharing. As we adapt.
Yes. Charlotte, are you our timekeeper again?
Yes.
feel? A little awkward? Good. It definitely needs practice. You have to practice it. So is everyone ready to go? I was just asking the early returnees if that felt a bit awkward. Or did it feel good? It takes time. It takes time and practice for sure. So I'm sorry, someone unmuted themselves.
Temitope, go ahead.
Yes, yeah, I was answering your question. I said it felt good, and like you said, it takes a lot of practice. It gets to a point where you don't even have to say the exact same thing you wrote down, but you just flow and still pass the same message across.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a great reflection, Temitope, for sure. I mean, all of this stuff takes time, but honestly, the return on investment is huge. And once you start to get these techniques in place, you can use them for a long time. You just adjust them slightly as they, whether it's, being effective at interviewing, whether it's writing your resume and cover letter, these are all long-term career management skills that we're trying to impart to you. So hopefully, by looking at them after this seminar and taking the appropriate amount of time to actually do these things in a fulsome, thoughtful way, these will be in your toolkit for a long period of time. So we're going to move.
Oh, sorry, just quickly. Min has pointed out in the chat that the elevator pitch is really like, tell me about yourself, which is really,
exactly.
It really is. They build on each other. And same goes with your profile section of your resume or your about me on LinkedIn. But like Temitope says, you don't want it to be the same every time, right? So it can't be the same in all of those places, but you're going to be profiling slightly different things depending on who you're talking to. You're going to shift and change things. So as Kelly said, working on these things really can build into something really cohesive and powerful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've talked a lot about networking, and I think by this point you guys have certainly kind of figured it out, but I want to kind of frame it in a different way, because oftentimes we think about networking and oftentimes there's a bit of resistance to that word, but we do it all the time naturally. It's really about making connections and building and maintaining relationships, and we do that in our personal life. We do that with our neighbors. So the most important thing to think about is it's about reciprocity. So it's a two-way street. It's about giving to others, while you're receiving help from others as well. So it's based on the question, how can I help? It's about finding ways to help one another, and it's a two-way relationship. So regardless of, whether you're going to school or where you work, you're building a network of contacts and you're creating impressions. And we're going to talk about that personal brand a little bit more. Even here on this video screen, you're creating a brand impression of yourself for your peers, for your instructors, for career consultants, right? And many of you actually, when you answered the question, how did you find your last job? It was likely 63% or 64%, I can't remember, but said through referrals or networking. And it was likely because you had created a personal impression with someone in your network that was willing to put you forward for a job or refer you for a job. So that personal brand is really important. So most people like to help others, and creating connections, whether it's related to your career interests while you're a student or in your field of work, or just asking about where you can get a good pizza in your neighborhood, is all about reciprocity, right? So I've already talked about this. Take the time now while you're a student to build connections in your chosen field. It's an excellent time to do it. People are more receptive, and a well-phrased request to connect on LinkedIn, meet for an information meeting, or share ideas will position you as a positive, resourceful person who's interested in learning more about their field, right? So it's really, it's a key time to plant those seeds. The other thing that I want to just continually reinforce, and we're going to see a video in a little bit about information meetings, and he also reinforces it, is always be grateful for people's time. So if people do agree to sit down with you and have a coffee or meet with you over Zoom to talk about their careers or their company or their industry and give you information that's going to help you better position yourself for career success, you need to always be thanking them and be grateful for their time. So, and the other piece, and this will be reinforced as well, is offer to help them. So remember I talked about that two-way street and that reciprocity. That's a really important part about networking. And it will also engage them in a way that shows them that it's not just all about you, even though at this moment in time, the information they're providing you is really key. It's about you being there for them at any other point going forward. So I'm going to talk very quickly about do's and don'ts of networking. And I'm going to tell you that Donna is going to go through this in a little bit more detail as well, especially when it comes to in-person networking and how to work a business meeting or an event or that kind of thing. But when you do meet people, whether it's on virtually or whether it's in person, and some of this is more relevant to in person, you definitely want to be ready to approach with a positive greeting, a positive attitude, and start with a friendly introduction. You want to be prepared for the conversation. So have some ideas of some questions you could ask. People like to talk about themselves. So asking open-ended questions that allow them to share things about themselves, is a really good way to get people started talking and to begin to build common connections. So if you can identify particular areas that you have in common, that also will lead to more enhanced conversations. The other thing that's really important when you're networking is to actively listen. So oftentimes we're a little bit nervous when we're meeting people for the first time. And so what tends to happen is you ask your question and the other person responds to you, but instead of being open and actively listening to that response, we're already thinking about, oh, what am I going to say next? Because we're scared of silence. So it's really important to be in the moment. And people feel that and they recognize that and they appreciate that you're actually listening to them. The worst thing is for you to go into a conversation and ask a question and then they start looking around the room while they're talking to see who else you might know. That's not respectful, and that conversation will end really quickly. So the other thing is always make sure you're pronouncing people's names correctly. So if you don't know, if someone has introduced themselves and you've missed it, you can say to them, am I correctly pronouncing your name? And then the other tip that I have for remembering names is use their name right away in the conversation. So if you're introduced, I'm introduced to Katie, I might meet 10 people, 15 people at that event, right? I might be introduced to 8 other people at a table. The only way I'm going to remember those names is if I use that name immediately afterwards. So, Katie introduces herself, I introduce myself, and, right away I ask a question and use her name at the end of it. Okay, you obviously want to be good, positive posture, confidence, have a firm handshake, inviting smile. Remember, you're trying to create a relationship here. So you want to be looking like a friendly, engaging individual who's confident. Obviously, if you're at an event, you need to be in the proper dress attire. I've talked about having a business card ready. And then at the end of the conversation, try to establish what is the best way and when can you follow up with this person if you decide that that's what you're interested in doing. So we've talked about some do's. Here's some don'ts. This is a huge one. We are so connected to our technology, our phones, that oftentimes I'll go to a business event and people will be looking at their phones. In fact, I'm going to call myself out on this. When you guys were doing your exercises, I was on my cell phone, looking at my emails, looking at my Facebook, and this happens at events. Be in the moment. Be present there. You've made a decision to be there, so capitalize on that decision. Put your phone away, put it on silent, unless you're expecting an emergency call or something, in which case you can say to people, you know, I may be expecting a call. I'm just letting you know now in case I have to step away from the conversation. And then do step away from the conversation. I've been at events where people on other sides of the table were texting each other. Nobody else is involved in the conversation. These two people are laughing with their phones in their lap. It's extremely disrespectful of the other people that are around you. So put your phones away. One of the other things is, you know, typically now we don't wear colognes or perfumes. There's a lot of companies that have an allergy policy, no perfumes in the workplace. So it's best if you don't wear a lot of strong colognes or perfumes. Deodorant, yes, that's something different, but not perfumes or colognes. So you're obviously never going to ask for a job. You may ask for a follow-up meeting. You're not ever going to give anybody your resume. You're going to give them a business card because, again, you want to customize the resume. If they say to you, you know, I have a job that I think you'd be really good for, you know, get their business card, go look at the job, customize your resume, and follow up with them, obviously. Don't get cornered. So this can happen sometimes. So, and Donna's going to talk a little bit about strategies to get out of a conversation in a way that's really respectful and professional. So if there's food at the event, don't approach someone when you're chewing, okay? Or when you have food in your mouth, and don't overindulge. And when I say that, I mean, don't overindulge in the food. You don't need to eat everything. You're not there for the meal, you're there for the business connections. And definitely don't overindulge in the alcohol. It's really important. And I mean, some of you will not drink anything, and that's perfectly fine. Even if your host is drinking, to ask for a glass of sparkling water, perfectly fine. But if you do decide to have a drink, really think about, first of all, you're driving, maybe. Second of all, sometimes a glass of wine can make you a little bit more confident, a little bit more gregarious. Two, probably not a good idea. So anybody at the idea dinner? Anybody?
I was there, Kelly, remember?
Yes.
There was a whole lot of wine and food, and you're absolutely right. It requires discipline to be in that business community and project yourself like the ambassador that you really want to be.
Right. Perfect, Oluwole. Okay. And then just this last one, if you've been invited for a lunch or a dinner by a business connection and they've invited you, typically they will pay for the meal. It's a business lunch and you are their guest. So never argue over who's going to pay for the meal. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Katie.
We've talked a bit already about the impact that social media can have on networking and on your ability to make connections with folks. I probably really don't need to talk about the fact that it's really transformed that. I think we're all very aware of the power of social media right now. One thing to think about every once in a while is, what have you Googled yourself recently? What shows up when you Google your name? Is that the impression that you want employers and potential business partners to have of you? We really need to think about all of those parts of ourselves that we leave throughout the internet. Because, and this comes again to job searches is about marketing, and some of your jobs, especially people who are trying to build a book of clients or build a book of business partners, your reputation is going to impact your job, and reputation ties into having a personal brand. And all that is a personal brand is what people think of when they hear your name. So it has to be authentic. It has to be you. But like I said before, this is your best professional self. So anywhere that you have a public online profile, think about it as your best professional self. Being on social media can help you get found for opportunities, the hidden job market. If you're using it well, it can help people want to connect with you. You might want to consider creating separate personal and professional accounts depending on your role and your goals. And also remember to check your privacy settings regularly, because companies change them and don't always update us that they've made changes. So where are recruiters these days? Facebook and LinkedIn are battling it out for first place, as you can see on this chart. However, if you look below the social media channels that produce the highest quality candidate, LinkedIn is still the winner. So being there, being present, we're going to talk about what that means later, is very, very important for you. Like I said earlier, TikTok and Snapchat starting to get a bigger market share of where recruiters are finding people. So 94% of companies use social media to recruit for hiring purposes in North America. And 42% of job seekers last year reported finding their jobs through social media, which is a jump in 10% from the year before. So it's important for you to realize where recruiters are spending their time and for you to be there. So again, I really hope that you're going to refer back to these slides and take a look at these and think about where you want to spend your time to be found by the right recruiter. Also, reach out to recruiters. That's something that they want you to do as well, but make sure you're reaching out to the right person. Or if you think that they might not be the right person, ask them, are you the right person for me, for my industry? If not, can you connect me with somebody who is? So in the chat, show me that you're present. What are some of the benefits of using social media as a job search tool? Looking for answers in the chat, folks. Yep, to get a good idea of the scope and the scale of opportunities. Oluwole, go ahead.
Thank you. I've seen something that the conversations are really dropping in really fast. So I'll just be up to speed here really quickly in a moment. Shugata has said it's a large community out there, definitely. Liang says it's very convenient. It's easy to work with. That was Mansouri. I think Samia is saying it's easy and has a wider reach, which is true. I can easily talk with others is what Cheng says. So again, for some of us who might be very introverted, this is a great way to build those connections. Hong says, I'll be able to find some fashionable jobs. Cheng again says, great opportunity to talk with other, easy, convenient, faster response. You're not required to be spontaneous on social media, so you can be precise and detailed in conversations. There's less possibility of making a mistake. That's a good point.
Really good
Excellent
observation,
points.
Minhas. You can be thoughtful. You can take time. So, and you've already kind of anticipated something that we're going to talk about on the next slide. But really quickly, can you think of any of the drawbacks? What might go wrong when you're using social media? And we're a little short on time here, so I'm going to wait for a few seconds, and then we're just going to kind of summarize. Hopefully we get some responses here, folks. We're going to summarize them and move on.
Or you've done such a good job convincing them they don't see any drawbacks to using social media.
Well, okay, then we'll just go on. There could be frustration.
Fan says there could be frustration.
Yep. All right, so.
Some people prefer to network in person, right?
Right.
Yeah, folks who are already responding are definitely anticipating what we're going to see on this slide here. So what are the recruiters' biggest turnoffs? Spelling and grammar errors is number one. So as Minhas said, you're not taking the time to be thoughtful, to make sure that what you're presenting is your best professional personal self on your online professional platforms. References to marijuana and alcohol, also really big drawback. So you want to think about the pictures that you're posting. And I know that you're probably not going to post pictures of yourself engaging in these things or talk about engaging in these things on LinkedIn, but this is why you need to Google yourself, because your company might be doing that too. So really kind of think about the way that you're presenting yourself. And I find this really interesting, participating in a viral social media challenge. 20% of recruiters said that participating in viral challenges or dances would negatively impact their decision to move forward with a candidate. So this is a little bit of what Kelly was talking about earlier in the what's in it for me, from the perspective of the person who's looking at you. This is something that we might have talked about in your mock interview, and something that comes up in resume and cover letter reviews. They don't know you. They can't fill in the gaps. And so all they have is what they see, whether it's your resume or your cover letter, or whether it's how you're presenting yourself online. And so it's really important that you think about the ways that you're doing that. What is important is examples of written or design work, which you absolutely can find ways to highlight on LinkedIn. Volunteering or mentoring, being involved in a nonprofit, really draw positive attention. Having mutual connections, again, that's a really important thing on social media. Recruiters are looking for information that supports your qualifications and also shows your professionalism. Employers want to know that you exist and that you know how to use technology. It's growing importance for a number of jobs. So LinkedIn is massive. As of right now, there are over 756 million users worldwide and 310 million active users monthly. Of those, over 18 million are here in Canada. 15 million jobs were open in LinkedIn as of the end of June. And this is where being active is also important. So we talked earlier about how you can't just be looking at job postings, but the more you look at the job postings that interest you on LinkedIn, the more you train their algorithm to send you what you want. That's literally how I found this job. I was looking at a lot of jobs that had business development in the title. And so that's the stuff that I started to get in emails from LinkedIn about jobs that you may be interested in. Then I also use my network to connect with somebody who used to work here to get some insights about how to make sure that my application stood out. So you can really combine the two in a really powerful way. One other thing to be aware of is that long form content on LinkedIn, so things that have over 1,900 words, perform the best. So this is why it's not just about sharing articles that somebody else has posted, although that is important, but every once in a while you need to be thinking about, is there something that you can write on your own to show that you are, a thought leader, or that you're developing your thoughts in your field. And also keep in mind that 45% of content readers on LinkedIn fall into upper management in companies. So being active really does have a big difference. I just need to check. They've started doing construction outside my window. Is it coming through? Is it distracting? Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay, it's distracting to me, but as long as it's not distracting to you, that's good. So 3 key things when people look at your LinkedIn, and it's not just people, but it's also algorithms. The photo, include a professional photo. Make sure that you're cropped in around your head and your shoulders so people can easily see your face. We make connections with faces. So make sure that people can easily see it. Match your attire to the company that you want to work in or the job that you want to have. So make sure that you're showing that off. It's easy. People can easily see you in the role that they're looking to hire just by looking at your photo. Headline is ranked top in LinkedIn's algorithm for keywords. So Kelly's already alluded to the assignments that are part of this. One of the assignments that you can do is to really work on your LinkedIn profile for this. And your headline needs to make sense. It needs to be compelling, but it needs to have keywords in it so that when people search, you show up. Your about section needs to be interesting. It needs to be well written. Think about the fact that spelling and grammar mistakes are the #1 turnoff for recruiters. But you need to answer, who are you? What do you want to do? What drives you? What makes you stand out from any other financial analyst or whatever role you're wanting to get into? Do numbers, like, do you dream in numbers? What makes you really passionate about doing this work? Also, the about section is ranked 2nd for LinkedIn's algorithm on keywords. So think about that as well. Make sure that your contact information is updated. You are allowed, like, it's absolutely fine to make sure that your contact information is only viewable to your contacts, but make sure that you've got an easy professional email address connected there. So if people want to reach out to you, they can. And also keep an eye out on recommendations. LinkedIn has a recruiter product, and the recommendations that you receive are featured in that. So for recommendations, you want to think about quality over quantity. And if you can, try to get bosses or clients to provide a recommendation as much as possible. They're more credible to recruiters than getting a recommendation from a coworker. So we know that we can't use I, me, and my on a resume, but you can on LinkedIn. So you can talk a little bit more expansively about what you've done, but also remember that people are busy. And so you can be a bit more expansive, but still make it pointed, still make it interesting to the person who's reading it. You can take your accomplishment statements from your resume and use that as a starting point, but don't just make it a copy and paste. Do use bullet points, do use keywords. Use the project section to talk about your case competitions, other things that you've done. It's a really great place to highlight what you've done and be active. So this can be intimidating to people. So an easy way to do it is to start liking people's posts. You can follow people without sending a connection request, particularly if it's like a big target person that you really want to connect with and you need to make a good impression with. You might want to follow them first. Start adding comments on their posts that show that you're thinking about the same kinds of things, adding value, and then maybe send a connection request with a personalized message. So think about that. Follow companies, join sector association groups, follow sector associations as well. And if you do share an article, try to add your own thoughts, not just I found this interesting. What about it was interesting to you? Maybe it's connected to something that you just learned in one of your classes. Talk about that on it. Show how you're learning and growing in your field so that people can see. Again, people want to see what makes you tick. We are not going to get into it right now, but in your handout, you've got handout number 7 and number 8 are both really about this kind of stuff. So build your online personal brand worksheet is in there, and online etiquette tips are also on in your handouts. Kelly, back over to you. You are still muted.
Oh, so you may also hear a dog barking, and my office dog in the background. But so briefly, we're going to talk about, Katie's already alluded to it, about how to connect with new contacts on LinkedIn, and about the fact that you shouldn't just send a friend request. So what do we need to include in the invitation? So it's connection, add a note. And so if you can, talk about why you want to connect with this person. Do you have any connections in common? Do you know someone who knows them? You know, do you have a similar a career path or school? Is this an alumni from the Asper School? That's a great way to do a warm introduction. Is their career in an area that you're focused on and you'd love to build your professional network with them? Reference something in their profile that interests you. That's always a great way to get someone's attention. And then always thank them in advance for accepting your invitation. So here are some quick samples on how to connect, and I'm just going to read one of them. They're in your slides. So when it's time for you to connect and you need some assistance kind of crafting that connection request, you can go back and look at this. But in looking at your profile, I see you're a fellow alumni of the Asper School of Business or the University of Manitoba. I noticed we have similar interests in finance. I would enjoy the opportunity to connect and chat sometime. Thank you. Thank you for your time, or thank you for your consideration. Okay, back over to Katie. That was a short one, Katie.
That was a short one. Okay, so information meetings. We've talked about these a little bit. And what this really is a chance for you to gather information from somebody about their job, about the company that they work in, about their field. They're a really great way for you to also build your professional connections. Think about the career paths that interest you, get information about different career paths. And it also allows you to share your career targets as well. So we're going to watch a video really briefly, really soon. So it's going to outline some strategies for you to effectively conduct networking or information meetings. And for those of you who are participating in the mentor program, this video can help you provide an outline for maybe your first meeting with your mentor, using the elevator pitch and following up with an agenda. So I'm just going to, you'll have a link to this in the videos and the slides when we send it to you. But this is also available through Beyond B-School. So please also be using that resource. Beyond B-School, you need to log into the career portal first, and then you look, I find it under search for jobs. It's in a couple of different places. You click on it, it opens up a new website, and there's tons of resources in there for you. There's PDFs, there's worksheets. Some of the stuff I think in your handouts might be from them, but this video is also from them. So Kelly, I will get you to stop sharing your screen, please.
Done.
And I will share this video.
Everyone give us a thumbs up if you
see my
can hear
screen?
it and see it.
Okay, and hear it, yes? Excellent.
Hi, I'm Nathan Perez and welcome to video 2. In video 1, I talked about how networking works, why it's so important, and the reluctance that both sides of the networking table have when it comes to networking. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 simple steps that make up a proper job search networking meeting. After this video, video 3 will show you an actual 20-minute networking meeting in action. But first, here are the 5 steps. Pretty straightforward, right? A great first impression, a great overview of your background, a great discussion where most of your time will be used, a great ending to your meeting, and follow-up. That's it. As I mentioned in video 1, really nothing too complicated and probably things that you've been doing all along. And again, just without process and practice. But let's take a closer look at the steps. Step 1, great first impression. Remember, you never get a second chance at a first impression. This step is critical because it sets the tone of your entire meeting. And though it's brief compared to the other steps, it's actually comprised of a few different things. The first one, on-time arrival. I mentioned this because while there's such thing as arriving late, there's also such thing as arriving too early. The second, express your gratitude for the meeting. You may have already said thank you when you set up the meeting, but it's important to say it again now. Remember, time is a gift, and your contact is giving you the gift of their time. Next, you want to highlight your connections. This helps bridge the comfortability gap. We all like knowing that we have other people in common. Plus, it increases the trust factor. And then setting an agenda. Now, this one is particularly important because it sets your contact at ease by letting them know what to expect of your meeting. But don't be fooled, that's not all that the agenda does. Without actually saying so, an agenda is responsible for the impression you create, not just of yourself, but of your overall approach to job search and relationship building. It also shows that you're prepared, considerate of your contact's time, and unafraid to lead a meeting. Now, just a quick tip. Don't wait for your contact to start the discussion. If you call the networking meeting, you're the one that runs it. This takes us to step 2, your great overview. This is where you give a 60-second snapshot of your background to provide context for the rest of your discussion. Now, oftentimes I'm asked, is it even possible for me to talk for 60 seconds? I don't know if I have that much experience. But the answer is yes, you absolutely can. Here's an example. And before I give it to you though, it's important to say that the book's going to show you exactly how to construct this great overview, but keep an ear out for the following elements that comprise this snapshot. The person's major, highlighted educational experiences, awards and achievements, any professional experience that this person has to date, and why this person chose to get their MBA in the first place.
Or MPhil.
Here it is. I graduated this past winter with a marketing MBA degree from the University of St. John. I won an award for a social media paper I wrote, which resulted in a paid internship at Fine Line Marketing, one of the largest private marketing companies in the state of California. I chose to get my MBA because I thought marrying it to my Spanish minor might create more opportunities for me in the marketing space. That turned out to be a good move, and I excelled at translating current written and digital material for Spanish-speaking markets during my internship, making me one of the few who could do it in the company. Now that I'm through with school and internship, I'm hoping to find a role doing similar work. Though I'm open to opportunities in large companies like Fineline, I'm also open to smaller organizations or for any organization that addresses education and community, as I have a passion for youth and community development. Now, could you make out the elements and hear how they were strung together to make a comprehensive view of this person's experience? And would you say that you got a fair understanding of this person's background? So yes, you can absolutely give someone a complete overview of your experience regardless of how much or how little you've had to date. This takes us to step 3. Once you've given your snapshot, you're going to lead your contact into the discussion, which you're there to have in the first place. This is where the bulk of your time is going to be spent. The Great Discussion is comprised of 5 key questions. The first 3 are designed very specifically for your contact. What you're hoping to gain is the unique wisdom or specific knowledge that perhaps only this person can give you. Here's an example of such a question. Sally, you earned a post-MBA certificate in strategy and leadership. Has that been valuable to you? And would you suggest that I pursue it at this stage of my career? Make sense? Here's one more. You finished your MBA last year. What was the biggest job search challenge? And if you could, would you change your approach if you were to do it all again? If you read the 20-minute networking meeting, the book will show you how and why to formulate questions in this fashion. But what's important is that you try to formulate thought-provoking questions that will earn you the kind of insight that isn't available anywhere else. The 4th key question is about getting more names to expand your networking effort. This is a major objective for any networker, but it's also the most common reason why people fail to expand their network, because they don't want to ask it. And for many reasons. It's uncomfortable, it was hard enough to ask for the meeting in the first place, no one wants to give names of other people, and all of those things are very understandable. But try to remember, your contact said yes in the first place. They're likely to help. Also, it's a networking meeting. People come prepared for this particular question. Also, others have been in your networking shoes, including for job search. All that said, it's really not that difficult to ask. So, if that's the case, what does it sound like? Here are a couple of examples. Sally, is there another SPHR contact that I could talk to about certification? Make sense? Here's one more. John, do you know of someone else in marketing that I could talk to? That's it. It's as simple as that. This takes us to the 5th and final question. How can I help you? I get emails every week from networkers expressing just how powerful this question was for them. Oftentimes people approach networking focused on what they can get from the meeting without ever thinking about how to help their contact in return. However, networking is a two-way street. It's give and take. It's critical to understand that this question creates a sense of peer relationship. What that means is that it tells your contact you get it. That networking is not all about you, but it's about both of you. In turn, it earns a reciprocated respect and consideration. It seeds trust, and it helps you keep in touch with your contact, keeping your network alive for however long you choose. And many times, it tips the scale for reluctant contacts to share with you names from their valued networking circle. But this isn't all. Here are a few other things that question can do. It can earn you an additional networking meeting with that contact, or perhaps in different parts of the organization, which of course could lead to additional business contacts because, well, everybody knows someone else. It could lead to a wider network, and while that does mean more people, it also means more word of mouth about you out in the marketplace, which could lead to an evangelist. Of course, you know, that's someone who's willing to help you on your behalf, a consulting gig, or best of all, you could land a job opportunity. But whatever you do, let it be the last thing that you ask. Sometimes meetings are out of our control and they get disrupted. Someone knocks on a window or a door and the meeting has to end. But if this were the case, you want to be sure that you are leaving your contact with a great impression of you. Try to let it be one of thoughtfulness and consideration. Be sure to ask, how can I help you? The final step of your meeting is your great ending. Simple, straightforward, and brief. What you're going to do is review any action that you and your contact have agreed on. So for example, thanks for agreeing to introduce me to Julie. It'll be great to sit down with her. Also, I'll send you an invitation to the Leadership Roundtable next month. Followed by more gratitude for your meeting, even if you have thanked them ahead of now. What does that sound like? Again, straightforward and simple. Thank you again for your time. Other things you could thank them for? Their expertise, their suggestions, Their wisdom in experience, insight, perspective, or anything that strikes you as something you could not have learned outside of this meeting. And of course, just their willingness to help you at all. Then finally, you wrap it up with a handshake and a goodbye. Now, while that was the last step of your meeting, it is not the last step in your overall networking, which takes us to our fifth and final step, the follow-up. There are two kinds of follow-up, immediate and ongoing. First, let's talk about immediate. Take prompt action to follow up within 24 hours. Now, you could get away with 48 hours, but anything more than that is going to make your contact kind of feel like an afterthought. You really want to avoid that. Who do you follow up with? Well, of course, you follow up with the person you just networked with, but just as importantly, you want to follow up with the person who referred you. Remember, if someone introduced you to a new contact, that person was obviously interested in helping you. Keep them in the loop with your progress. Why? As I mentioned before, we feel good knowing that we have people in common. And doing so shrinks your networking world and as a result strengthens your networking circle. But this is not where your overall networking ends. To keep your network alive, you must stay in touch. And you do this with ongoing follow-up, or as I like to call it, networking maintenance. Here are a few important rules. Be in touch every quarter at the very most. There's just a few exceptions to this. If your networking introduces you to someone who is closely connected to your contact, or if your contact information has changed, or if you have completed a degree or earned a significant certification. If you're networking ahead of graduation, informing your contacts of your new degree now makes you qualified and puts you top of mind for any opportunities they may hear of. Keep your network alive. Stay in touch. Now that we have overviewed the steps of the 20-minute networking meeting, you probably see how simple and straightforward this networking thing really is. And perhaps you realize you've been doing many of these things all along, but again, maybe just without process and practice. Now, though the 20-minute networking meeting will give you a thorough explanation of the process, and though it gives many, many more examples on how to tailor each of these steps to your own experience, wouldn't it be great to kind of see it all in action now? Well, you're in luck. Watch video 3 and see everything we've just discussed.
Okay, there it is. So again, there's a link to that there. You can watch video 1 and video 3 on Beyond B School. And even though he was talking about MBA, I know we've got some MBA students in this room right now, but this is mostly MFins. These things absolutely apply to you as well. And in your handouts, you do have an information meeting template.
Can I just add some things?
Absolutely.
So first of all, the third question was excellent, and also excellent for people that for this current moment. So the third question, just to remind you, and I'm paraphrasing because I didn't get a chance to write it down, but it's about connecting with people that are recent alumni from your program and talking to them about what did they do in their job search to be successful, and also what would they have done differently. So you can get some really good insights on things that worked for other people that have gone through your MFin program. And then I'm going to challenge you and ask you, we've had at least 2 occasions now where we've brought in alumni. So one of them was at our international orientation. We had an alumni panel. And the other one was at our mentor information sessions, where we had 2 alumni share with you their experiences in the mentor program. So my challenge to you is, how many of you connected with those alumni through LinkedIn, followed up with them, made a connection so that in the future and near future, you could reach out to them and ask that third question about how did you go about job search? Like how were you successful? And is there some things that you would suggest to me given your past experience? And then I just wanted to reiterate as well that the Beyond Business School, he refers video 1 and video 3, it's available to you. Thanks, Katie. Oh, I guess it's me. Okay, so this actually is not in our course outline syllabus, but I think it's a super important piece around career management. So I wanted to briefly touch on it, and it is going to be a brief conversation about it. It's around salary and total compensation, total rewards negotiation. So, and the reason I'm using total rewards is because the package that you'll receive from a prospective employer is more than just your salary. There's all of the benefits that are accrued. There's also different perks that are involved in a compensation package. So I wanted to talk about salary negotiations because as you progress through your career, negotiations will become even more important. And you might not have as much leverage in an entry level position as you do after you've created a reputation and credibility within your field, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't negotiate. And so because negotiating in your first position impacts what you're going to earn for the rest of your life, whether that means, performance adjustments in your company, like at a starting point, they're going to give you a 3% raise. That's the other thing I wanted to mention to people. For students who are from other countries, performance raises on an annual basis tend to be much different in other countries. So I know for our students from China, from India, they're commonly experiencing, if they perform well in a particular role, 10, 15% incremental raises every year. That's unheard of in Canada. So even more important that you have that knowledge when you go into your first negotiating your first Canadian job, likely is that you're not going to experience more than a 3% raise annually. That's kind of a common amount. You may have bonuses, performance bonuses, that can be part of a performance management plan within an organization, but I want you to be aware of that. So you need to do your research. You need to talk to people. And some of those people are the career consultants at the Asper School of Business, but also your peers in your programs. You can do research on the internet about common salaries for particular positions in Manitoba. For instance, geographically, salaries change. So if you're actually applying for a job in Toronto and negotiating a salary in Toronto versus Winnipeg, oftentimes Toronto jobs and Vancouver jobs may be up to $10,000 more a year higher, simply because of cost of living in those big cities versus the cost of living in Manitoba. It does, your earning potential, your power of spending is the same depending on where you are, but you don't want to negotiate a Winnipeg salary if you're going to be in Toronto, because you'll be shortchanging yourself. So do your research, check out the industry. Some industries pay less than others, some pay more. There may be like with a smaller